and help fast and be the more flexible, more innovative, kind of fast moving ability to respond and react and build something out of where we are now. Business owners and people in general that have this entrepreneurial spirit see opportunities, create opportunities, press on, show courage, and work together, network together, collect together. And what we have going for us is a lot of speed, a lot of innovation, a lot of combined knowledge. And this event is going to be about supporting that ideation and planning, supporting that connection, learning some new things, coming together and just marshaling our resources together, our networks together, our ideas, and taking the world that we have now to the world we want to have. So I want to thank everybody who's helped put this event together. We have 40 plus people involved that come together to make this happen. And we have a big audience that's going to join in and learn from this and take these ideas forward and create the world we want to live in. So thank you everybody who's involved in that way. One of the things that has happened that's inspired me is Nate Jewell, who we're going to bring him on, and he had a business, and we'll tell you about it. But basically, his story inspired me so much. I wanted to start by having the two of us talk over what's going on in his business, and we'll go on from there. So, come aboard. Okay. Hey, Nate.
Hey, good morning.
Welcome. I wanted to start with you because I loved your story and because just that you're embodying the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish here. So can we talk about, first of all, let me give you a brief introduction of your history because it's pretty amazing, but let's keep it short because I want to get into the meat of your story.
Yeah, so super short, spent probably the first 70% of my career in corporate, big company, shifted to the startup world a couple of years ago. And just when I was working in startups, I've been a big exercise enthusiast my whole life and just wasn't able to work out during the day. So said, why has anyone done mobile fitness? So we went out and built this massive first ever mobile fitness studio that we pop up in Golden Gate Bridge on the weekends and we take to multi-tenant office parks during the week. So that was
let me ask you about that. So obviously that's not happening now, but let's just get the visual picture. How big is this? How do people interact with it? How does it work?
Yeah, think of a boutique fitness studio. It's when we open it up, it's 1,200 square feet. It's 50 feet long, 40 feet wide, roughly. And then it's a 40-person class, people doing strength training and using water rowers and trading places. So it's a massive facility, great sound system. We have a live instructor, people interacting like you would a Soul Cycle or an Orange Theory of Berries boot camp for people who are familiar with that.
And how many people are in this at one time?
40 at a time.
Okay. And how long does this last when you come and do a session?
So it's a 50-minute class, but we'll be there for the whole day. So we'll do 7, 8, 9 classes in a day when we're on location.
I see. Okay. Now, sounds like it was an awesome thing, and it sounds like a thing that's not happening now.
Correct. That's right. Yeah, we paused it.
All right. Understandable. And if I recall correctly, you were proactive in that as well. You paused it before people were saying you must stop these kind of things.
That's right. Yeah,
we be doing now.
We paused it before any of we're in California. We paused it before the governor or the city of San Francisco, anyone said to close down. We saw it coming. We knew just wasn't safe for people. So we closed our doors and we shifted 100% online almost overnight.
Okay, so tell us about that. What does that mean, shifted 100% online?
So what fitness has always been online. It's nothing new. And the existing fitness was a lot of on-demand videos or live streams, so one directional. So it's a live presentation from an instructor and you're following along, but nothing really had been two-way engagement. Recreated that in-person experience of a fitness class in the digital world. And that's what we want to do. We said, we're going to go online. We're not going to be another live stream. We're not going to be an on-demand video. We want to create human-to-human connection in our classes, just in a digital virtual world. So we did that. We use Zoom, which is a great platform for it. And we're teaching these live classes with our instructors, with literally people from all over the world. And it's the instructors talking to you saying, Jeff, great job, keep it going. You can talk to the instructor. You can talk to other people if you know them in the class, as we're cheering people on. There's a lot of engagement. At the end, you see the smiles and the endorphins from everyone, and it's just pretty remarkable.
So I don't have a water rower in my house.
Aha, you don't need one.
Okay.
So we do the whole workout as well. So we also redesigned the workout. So we're not doing it. So we said before it was a very structured program where it was a HIIT style class. Now we do mostly body weight with items around the house. We also do yoga, sculpt, Pilates, mindfulness, stretching. So we're actually offering a variety of classes, all that we can be done in the home, regardless of what type of equipment you may or may not have. So it's meant to be open to anybody.
Yeah. Now, by the way, I don't want to be confused with a fitness person, but I recognize you used a piece of fitness jargon because you said HIIT, right?
Yes.
What is that?
HIIT is high intensity interval training. So what it is, in the studio, when we had the physical space, you would do about 8 to 10 minutes doing strength training, a lot of different types of moves. Then you would jump on the rower for 8 to 10 minutes. Then you would jump back. And when you're doing these different things, it'd be moments of really intense, we call them full throttles, all out bursts for 30 to 60 seconds, in addition to the rest of the workout. And the intent is to get your heart rate really up and try to maintain it in these certain zones. So that's the HIIT aspect of it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. And it ties into something that I've been thinking about lately, which is isolation is its own health threat.
It is, yeah.
Right? We're not going outside. We're not moving around as much. And many of us are eating foods that will be less healthy than we would have normally eaten. We're getting long shelf life foods and so on. And speaking of which, so anyway, I really appreciate that. Now, when we talked earlier, you mentioned something that I thought was even more exciting, which is how companies use what you're doing.
Yeah, there's actually, I'd say I'll preface that first, but there's probably two exciting things. There's the company one, which I'll come to in a second, but also what we've noticed is we've had friend groups and families from around the world join the live classes who never would have done a class together, and they're talking to each other. So you're creating this interaction and engagement with people that wasn't happening before when they were going to their normal studios. And then an even more surprising thing has been on the corporate side. So we've had a lot of companies book team events. Before, they might go out to lunch, they might do a happy hour, they might do a bowling event, and now they're doing a private fitness class with us where it's just their work team, and they're creating a ton of engagement because everyone's working from home. After the end of the class, we're hearing from companies that productivity is going up, the engagement and collaboration is increasing, and we've had 100% of companies rebook classes because of how good it's going or how well it's going. And that's been, I think, really surprising, is just the response from corporate. Given everything else going on and all the cost cutting and everyone's trying to be lean, they're still saying, hey, it's really important to keep our people healthy and moving and engaging. And that human connection that the fitness class is creating, just it hits on a lot of points.
All right. So I just want to back up a step. The reason that I wanted you to talk about this is because of the pivot, right? Because of the world has changed. What I invested in, created, and so on can't work right now.
Right.
But at the same time, you had other resources that still work, right? You have a team, you have a knowledge base, you have connections to customers. So I'm inspired by the fact that there's lots of businesses that cannot do what they used to do. But they still have some resources. Yep. And they still have, maybe there are other things they can do. What made you think of this?
Well, fitness is, to the entire team, just incredibly important. We believe it just helps people in a variety of ways. And we said we have to keep helping our community. We know they need to stay healthy, even when all these doors close and they have nowhere else to go. So how do we just create an experience for them to do that in the digital world? And I would say nothing about our studio and company pre-coronavirus was digital, like or tech enabled. So it required our team to, figure it all out, just be scrappy. What are we going to use? When you use Zoom, how do you make Zoom be the most best experience possible? Because a lot of people are using a lot of platforms and they're not really investing the time in doing it. So it was
Okay.
just saying, how do we just continue to help our community?
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, what about your team size? Did you lay off people? Are you hiring people? Are you staying the same?
So all of our full-time people remained, and then we've tripled the number of instructors we have. So what we've also done is we said, hey, it's digital. We can teach an unlimited number of classes regardless of time. Or we had a physical space, you can only do one class at a time. Well, in the digital space, we could do 1,000 at the same time. So we've been bringing on instructors from all over the world who have been laid off from their studios, who don't have work, and letting them teach on our platform. So we're actually been growing instead of shrinking on team size.
Okay. And do you know anything about the follow-on effect that companies have gotten by increasing their, I mean, you talked about it generically, but has any company tried to measure an effect, or they just like it?
No effect yet, but I would say in the like factor, we've had companies go from doing 1 class a week to 5 classes a week to 6 classes a week. So that's the follow-on effect we're seeing right now. It's maybe a little bit too early to measure it, but we are able to see who's coming regularly. And then I think back with the companies, we're definitely hearing anecdotally like what their improvement in performance is and everything.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's seeing the smiles at the end of class and just getting the comments afterwards and people sharing on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, and just the pure joy and they're being healthier it's awesome.
Have you found anybody else who's done the kind of thing you've done? I don't mean the literally fitness business, but the same kind of pivot. Have you encountered that in your?
I think one of the things that has impressed me is a lot of people have in schools, all these schools that overnight went from never using technology or video very little to all of a sudden doing classes on Zoom and doing Zoom webinars or Zoom meetings. So I think we're seeing it all around us of people who just the resiliency of just humanity really, and just overnight going to the digital world and being able to keep engagement and keeping things going on interactions.
Yeah.
People doing Zoom happy hours and family gatherings. I'm actually leading a wedding tomorrow on Zoom for a friend. So it's amazing how everyone's just kind of pivoting to make the most of it.
Yeah, I've run into a similar situation where in our area, some of the farmers are offering subscription services
Huh,
to deliver fresh food.
that's awesome.
So to me, that's a little reminiscent of your kind of pivot,
Yeah.
which that is so inspiring. All right. Anything else we should know?
Maybe the last thing is, we, as I said, like we're big about helping the community. So a portion of all of our proceeds are going back to help people impacted by COVID. So that's another thing we're trying to do, just to give back through all our classes.
Oh, tell me more about that. Who are you giving this to? And
So it's a variety of organizations. We're kind of identifying one locally here in San Francisco. There's a small business relief GoFundMe, so we're donating to that. So 1% of all proceeds we're trying to donate into different communities where we're kind of operating. Had been San Francisco. We've hired a bunch of people in New York and London, so we're going to start looking at groups there too. So the idea is, how do we give back with what we're doing, since we're, I guess, quote unquote, benefiting.
okay, so since this is a business-focused event, another question I have for you is, what is the business model? Do people subscribe to this? Do they buy classes? What does a company do?
Yeah, so we actually kept our regular business model, which had been you buy an individual credit to a class, so it's $7 to come to a class, or you can buy a package, which lowers it to $5, or you can buy a monthly subscription for it, which is $99. So there's 3 options, which is pretty standard in the boutique world. There's no contracts or anything, so you cancel anytime, use the credits anytime, give them to friends. So it's credit based or subscription based.
Okay. I don't have any more questions, but if you want to say anything more, you can share with the audience, or again, I love the inspiration of what you've done. I feel like I have let my fitness go too much during this time because I used to do, in-person training. And this is not the time for that.
Yeah, it's I think, going into it, boutique fitness has always been in person, which is there's a lot of magic to kind of being next to somebody and when you're in class. And going to digital, I just think we just weren't sure how it was going to be. And I think even when all this passes and we can reopen our doors, I think the digital fitness world is going to stay a lot bigger than what it was. And we've definitely had tons of customers say, we want to keep doing this even when we go back to our gym, because we love being able to work out with our friends in New York or our work team or whatever it is. Or we love being able to do this in our living room in a live class environment, which is different than just a live stream, which you don't have that engagement and that interaction and that energy. And we want to keep doing it. So I think we've stumbled upon a business model that actually might be not just an interim thing, but a staying power. And that's been, I think, also another surprise and super interesting. So I think the willingness and the openness to be able to adapt and change things, and every day we're making a little bit better and we're tweaking things a little bit more. And it's just, I think it's been really fun, and just seeing everyone who's doing it and just enjoying it. We've had a bunch of people who are actually new to fitness as well. Like they've never really exercised, but because of how easy it is and they have friends somewhere saying, just join for this one class, I think we're just impacting a lot of people, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I've got an audience question here that says, what can a fitness business do if their model depends on a physical gym that they own?
Yeah, so I mean, that's what we were. So we were a physical studio 3 weeks ago, and we were highly dependent on that. That's 100% of our revenue was through there. So obviously we closed the doors, and we had an instructor group that was highly trained, and that's when we started offering online classes. And it's, the super scrappy way is you could just send out to your member list, an email saying, hey, we're going to offer these online classes. Just pick a time once or twice a day and start to get engagement. And even do them free at first, just to work out the kinks. That way people know that you're trying to figure it out. But you can definitely go online. There's really no cost to get Zoom up and running. There's no cost to do all this other stuff. You've processed payments before. So that was another thing that's really neat. It's like we didn't have to go invest 5,000, 10,000, really any dollars. There was no investment to get this going. We're able to kind of do it.
Yeah, I'm also wondering if you're traditional business, you think of competition as an issue.
Yeah.
There's some businesses where the issue isn't so much competition as it is there's more demand than myself and all my competitors can fill.
Yeah.
Right. And this might be one of those. There's more people that need what you do than you're ever going to reach. Does that make sense to you?
It does. I'd say I think there's two things going on. There's everyone, and every week more and more people are wanting to do fitness. So you have billions of people in the world. So how do you serve all them? So you're right, there's a ton of demand. At the same time, everyone who is in fitness, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people went digital. Individual instructors went digital. Yoga people everyone went digital. So, and a lot of it's live streamed, a lot of it's free. So as a consumer, there's always a ton of noise. So they're also right now, the first couple of weeks, been figuring out, what is it? How do I find it? What's the experience? This isn't what I want. What's over here? So it's going to take a while to kind of go above the fray of all this and really show people what you're doing. But it's a staying power. You just have to trust what you're doing, stick with it, and people will find you.
Now, you said something that hit me in a certain way. A lot of people want to do fitness. I'm a person who wants to have done fitness. Right? I don't know if you can help with that issue, but that just struck me as, yeah. You understand what I'm saying, right?
Find the motivating factor. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's someone else, a family member who can just convince you one day to join something. I think it's also, what is fitness to you? Would joining a mindfulness class be the first entry point? Because that's maybe easier, or a stretching class or yoga. It doesn't have to be this high intensity body weight training. It could be a lot of things that we're offering that the intent is it's variety, because everyone wants something a little bit different. It's about moving. At the end of the day, it's just about standing up and moving. Because I think everyone's sitting in their chairs and their desks a heck of a lot more now than they were when they had to get out into the world.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if I'm your exact target, but what would appeal to me is I can do my fitness and have a sense of community at the same time. Because here I am in a home by myself. So
Yeah.
you can fill two needs in the same time slot. That's nice.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. And we spend a lot of time in the class trying to create that community feel so you don't feel like you're just watching a screen. And that's really important for how we're doing this.
Yeah.
And it requires a kind of a team on the back end, but it's, I agree with you 100%.
So what is your future? In other words, in a world where you can use your mobile platform,
Yeah.
will you still do this? Will you hybridize them? What's next?
That's a great question. Too early to tell. I am of the belief, the hope that when May 1st comes, everything's back in operation, but to realize it's probably not the case. And I think gyms and studios will probably have their doors closed into late summer, to be quite honest. So plan for the worst, hope for the best, I guess, in that sense.
Yes.
I do very much still believe in our physical model because we go to corporate office parks where people don't have fitness. But I do think there's a hybrid. As I said, like people are saying, I want to keep doing this when I go back to work. I want to keep these experiences. So our ability to have a physical studio, kind of a home base in San Francisco, but then a digital experience that's worldwide. And then as you imagine, we might build another studio somewhere. We're already in those markets in a digital sense. So I think there's a hybrid model here, and it's just different types of fitness for different people. And it's just creating accessibility for everybody.
So one way you could expand this is the traditional software-esque, acquire customers, etc. Would you be open to helping other entrepreneurs do something similar to even go faster?
Yep, we already have. We've had a couple people. We had one person in Italy reach out, another in Spain, just asking, "Hey, how can we help them do what we're doing?" So absolutely here to help. I think that I don't view it as competition in a bad sense. I think it's all good. People need to move, so it's here to help.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, right? I'm professionally helping businesses grow and helping them scale up, and while on a sense you can say that you're competing, on the other sense, there's more people who need this than can get it, right? We have more of a supply problem than a demand problem in help me scale my business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's wonderful. Okay, well, you've been a great inspiration, I think, and a great energetic start to this 2-day event.
Maybe I saw one question come in that maybe is, if you don't mind me answering, Jeff.
Please.
So someone's asking if a friend, a trainer, it seems like New Jersey, how do you control the experience? So one, reach me for help. Our website is drift, on my shirt, live.com. You can go there. And then my email is just my first name, Nathaniel, at Let's Drift, LETSDRYFT.com. So anyone can reach out with any questions. But to answer your question, so I call it 3 levels of quality with the digital world. There's live streams, which people are doing on IGTV, YouTube, and Facebook. That's the lowest level of quality, but it's the easiest accessibility. The second level of quality is people are using Zoom or GoToMeeting or whatever it is, and they're just kind of hitting start, and then they're teaching the class, and they aren't being mindful of volume and people's mics and all these things. The third level of quality is what we're trying to do with Drift, is we actually have a person that you don't see in every single class, much like we probably have on this webinar, who's controlling the audience, making sure that if there's a bunch of feedback on one person, we'll mute their mic and let them know, but we try to get people participating, obviously, with mics and videos as questions come in. That way, all the instructor has to do is teach the class. We manage the music, we manage the audio levels, everything else. So literally, we have this, we call it a mini live TV show. We even have virtual cues that we give to the instructor, so we're helping them along.
Right.
Now, that's a much kind of higher lift type effort, but there's ways to make the quality great across all these different platforms, and happy to chat about it.
Yeah, and by the way, when I asked you about your business model before, I thought that was very nice and very affordable. A friend of mine had gone to get some takeout in a restaurant, which we still have takeout, and that's how a lot of people. And the restaurant had their regular price food, and they had a second price for people that had been furloughed or laid off.
That's great.
So some people are wondering, there's a lot of people who need what you have, but might not have money right now, or anyway, just putting that out there.
We're going to start so it's not on the website yet, but next week we're going to start doing a few classes a week that are free, that are donation based. So if people can afford to give the instructors a little bit of money, great. If not, they can still join, and it's a free class. So I think, to your point, how do you help people that maybe are in a financial place where they can't do it? We're also looking at doing some of that stuff too.
Okay. And I just one question. Somebody wants to know how you get high quality instructors. How do you train them for this?
Well, thankfully, we had a stable of instructors that were highly trained. We have a great team who trains them, and right now when instructors reach out, we look at stuff they've done, we look at what their training is, where they're teaching, which studios. We're a lot more lax right now on the training program because we're at home, so it's a little bit more been, let's just open our arms to instructors who want to come teach and let them on the platform, and just we'll figure out kind of the training and stuff as we go a little bit.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us. It was a great inspirational start for the day.
Yeah.
And we'll move on to our next part of our program. So thank you so much, and keep in touch.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. And I'd like to introduce Verne Harnish by basically saying, when I thought I wanted to do this event, Verne was the first person I thought of that I would want help from. And because he is the consummate information funnel curator, tell us what to pay attention to, and at the same time inspire us to take action. So he's going to help us translate what's going on, what the world is telling us, and how we can understand the situation we're in, take action, and connect to the best resources in the world. So that's why Verne is here, and I'm so glad he is. Welcome, Verne, and please take it away.
Jeff, thank you so much. And by the way, Jeff, as you guys probably know, Jeff Moore is one of our top scaling up certified coaches. Jeff, thank you so much for hosting this. And I want to welcome everybody as learners. Look, we have to make fast decisions. We've got to gather fast data, and we've got to lead, because we know that panic is contagious, but so is leadership. And actually at Fortune, we reported out from one of the CEOs who said, right now, gather feedback, but you need to decide this is not a time for consensus building within the organization. And so what I want to do, that was a spectacular presentation just before I had a chance to listen into it. I wanted to share a quick story. So Rick Skidmore runs a company called Timberlake. And what they're the #1 manufacturer of shutters. By the way, their shutters are on the White House. They're on the haunted house at Disney. They're the only one that's approved for historical buildings. But he was in the process of furloughing all 60 of his employees. Just to give you a quick update. So what he was able to do over the last weekend was pivot. And I think Steve Blank was right. If you're practicing your same business model today that you had a month ago, you're probably going to be out of business quite quickly. And so let me give you an update. He just sent it to me a few minutes ago. So approximately 50% of his employees are currently working on emergency products. The probably most important tool that we've got out there, and Rick can send it to you, is what we call our SWET tool. And that's our strengths, weaknesses, and trends. And what you need to do right now is sit down and take an accounting of what are our capabilities? What are the absolute things that we are core excellent at? And then you've got, and particularly, what do we suck at? And then we have to contrast and compare that with where is the puck going? Because we've got to skate towards the opportunities that are available this next week, and what we think the opportunities are going to be available over the next probably 12 months. And so that's what Rick did immediately. And so what they've done, they're going to ramp up to 80% of their employees today, tomorrow, and 90% by Monday. What they did is they reached out, being up just near New York City, they reached out to the New York City government and the hospital systems. And they said, look, we can manufacture two things, these disposable masks and these disposable intubation boxes that physicians can use to keep themselves safe. Core business sales are down 75%. They're shifting their messaging. They've suspended 90% of their ad spend. So what's happened in this week? Face shields. They produced and shipped 50,000 units since last Friday. They have committed orders for 3 million units, and they have proposals out for 20 million units. Their current capacity is 8 to 10,000 per day. Capacity as of Monday is 50,000 per day, and they're going to scale to 100,000 per day within a week. And they are hiring folks that have been laid off in their community of Montgomeryville, Pennsylvania. They're going to hire right at 100 temps starting Monday. They're then going to ramp up to 3 shifts, 24/7, starting Monday. On the intubation shields, they produce and ship 250 units. They have committed orders for 800, current capacity 75 per day, and they believe their capacity by Monday will be 250. So Rick didn't sit around and furlough 60 folks that were manufacturing shutters. He said, look, what is the immediate demand right now? And we published out, Rick, Jeff, you can share that. It's a list of the 16 designated emergency services that are allowed to operate right now, and all of the workers. We know right now 300,000 workers are needed just for delivery services. I saw the juice bar question up here, and we are getting that kind of stuff delivered right to our home from a juice bar that my partner, Deborah, enjoys. So you're going to need to pivot. Now, what's that require? Data, data, data. And I could comment on how either good or bad data has driven this mess that we're in, but this is the brutal fact reality. And so we've got to gather ourselves. So I want to be very prescriptive here. Step number 1 is you need to get with 4 or 5 other people in your same industry. So again, the person with the juice bar, make some contacts with some, not competitors, but folks that are in other cities, because you cannot think this through alone. It's absolutely the way the brain works. The more you think about it, the worse it upsets your stomach, the tougher it is for you to sleep. It's only when we speak that we put the vibrations out that we can actually watch the brain. Your fear center shuts down, that thing that you either want to fight or fly from, and your then prefrontal lobes begin to light up like a Christmas tree. So there were 5 event companies in Florida earlier this week. As you can imagine, they did put on big musical events and others. They are out of business. They expect their revenue from traditional sources to go to 0. And each one of them was in a funk. But a friend of theirs, Chris, who wrote a book called Start Ugly, said, all right, let's get the 5 of us together on a Zoom call and let's begin to brainstorm. What are the assets we have? What are the capabilities we have? And they made literally a physical list. It included, they've got these trucks that have LCD screens on them that obviously they pull up to help kind of provide lighting and entertainment for various events. Then they said, all right, who might need these capabilities and assets? And they realized that hospitals and governments and others that need to direct people what to do, that need to put signage out in front of the hospital that allow people to know what is going on. And so they put together a list of 48 assets that they collectively had together. And one of them had a contact right into the governor's office. And this is when you really want to tap into your network. And they were able to get that in front of the governor's eyes within 24 hours. And they're now beginning to deploy those assets to the emergency kind of essential services that are available right now. So first, identify 4 or 5 other people in your same industry, and I want you to get them on a Zoom call, because collectively, you're going to come up with much better ideas than if you're sitting there by yourself. Number 2, I have 3 advisors, and I am on the phone with them 3 times a day, bouncing ideas off of them, getting their feedback. And again, it's not texting, it's not emailing, it is the opportunity to get them on the phone and have conversations. Because again, 90% of the value is you hearing yourself talk. You need to get those vibrations out and get the prefrontal lobe literally working to begin to solve this problem. And they've been the ones that have allowed us to pivot very quickly within the last 7 days to something that we're doing, as Jeff knows, later on. And so get talk time with your key advisors. And here's what's interesting. Almost every one of the successful industries we see today launched in periods like this, like FedEx. And I want to use an analogy. What the Gulf War did to launch CNN, this COVID crisis is going to launch, for instance, we know 3D printing. This is fine. It's been around for 40 years, but it's now with this whole movement, we know over the next few years of bringing manufacturing and everything else back local, people needing parts in minutes, not months. Brett Feld, who is a good friend of ours, is a big investor in the 3D printing companies. That's what's going to be hot. We also know that distance learning, it's been sitting around here for decades, but this is its time in the sun, and it's beginning to take off, as we're seeing with homeschooling through these kind of events. So we've actually done a data scrape of all of the news sources and have identified 87 what we think are right now the hot opportunities and will be the hot opportunities over the next 12 months. We'll be putting that out by tomorrow. And what you want to do then is take those significant trends, that's the TNR Sweat tool, look at your capabilities, and then get a lot of talk time with your advisors, with your friends, with other people in your industry, and figure out what kind of opportunity can you take advantage. This is your Gulf War, as it did for CNN, opportunity for you to make a significant pivot. And I want to remind you of something really significant. You know, this global economy was 34 trillion in the year 2000. It was 88 trillion this last year. And what I've seen are the worst predictions, the Great Depression. Let's say the global economy drops by 25%. And as was said earlier, you must plan for the worst. We have planned to have zero traditional revenue over the next 6 months. So you plan for the worst, and then you see where the opportunities are. If the whole global economy drops by 25%, it's still twice the size it was just in the year 2000. And so you really have to have a local mentality, not global, a local mentality that says, look, there's 10, 100,000 million or a billion that someone's going to get if we can gather the data, make quick decisions, and then act accordingly. And it's got to be done in minutes, not months, moving forward. Now, with that, I want to share, we did a document called The 5 C's of Leading in a Crisis. And again, Jeff, you can get that document out. I can get it resent back over to you to share. But let me walk you through those 5 C's. And in our typical style of what are the top 5 and the number 1 of 5, the first is that you need to communicate daily with whatever team you have left. And I assume by this time, it's been 2 weeks that you, as of last Friday, made the tough decisions. Who you're keeping, who you're not, who you needed to get out there on unemployment. You've applied for your $10,000 disaster loan, as we did 2 days ago when it became available. Tomorrow or the next few days, then will be disaster loans and payroll protection programs. But again, you don't want to be protecting payroll. They think you're going to be forgiven for at least 3 months of that payroll amount. So I would jump on immediately. That may give the runway in order to make the pivot that you need. So make sure you've got somebody. We've already in touch with our banker. We're already in touch. And I assume, Jeff, you've got some experts like Ami or something that are going to be talking about this. So I hope you've made the tough decisions. And by the way, if you got to cut, you want to cut once, you want to cut deep. And then the team you've got left, here's the key. First, you want to communicate daily with them. This is different than our daily huddle, which we'll talk about. But what you want to do is you want to put out an email, 4 or 5 sentences. You want to put out a video if that's your style. And I really do think video is the thing to do right now. Or if you're on Slack or WhatsApp with your team, then let's get an audio message out so they can hear your voice. Because you need to know, if you are not a solopreneur, but you're leading a team, they are much more fearful than you can imagine. We're going to share some data this afternoon from Amplify, which is the technology. It's measuring by the moment people's kind of mental, social, physical health. And they are much more scared than their leaders understand. And they're not letting it on to you. And so you're their leader. They want to hear from you every single day. Now, if you have bad news to share, here's the key to this message. You want to keep it factual. You don't want to put a lot of guesstimates in there. things like, I bet you're feeling, or I bet you're, no, don't be betting or guessing anything. If you've talked to one of them and you've got something specific to share, do it. And so keep it to the facts, keep it short. And if you've got bad news to deliver, and we had some on Friday, do not create what has been called a shit sandwich, which is you're going to take some good news and then you're going to shove in the bad stuff and then put good news on the other side. The godfather of influence, Dr. Robert Cialdini, said, if you want to really build trust and believability, you want to be able to put first the bad news and then follow it with, all right, here's what we're going to do about it. Here's what we're doing next. And obviously, if there's any good news, then share that. Again, you're going to be much more believable. So number one, you need to communicate out daily to your team. Just give them a quick update so that you can allay their fears. And if you sense that any of them are having issues, look, I think it's important for you as much as you can is to have a phone call with every one of them that you can. Number two, the second C, I'm going to call it customer/community. Look, the main thing we have to do is triage right now. We have to decide what's going to work and what's not, which customers are going to pay us and which aren't, what bills we're going to pay and what we're not going to, and where can we pivot for the customers who actually have the opportunities. And so what I want you to do is I want you to take a piece of paper, and what you want to be thinking about is when this thing's over, what did you regret? What relationships do you want to make sure that you've maintained? Because right now you are establishing brand and what your brand stands for. And so I'll give you a very specific example in our industry. We have always been huge Marriott fans. They were there to help bail us out in 9/11. We were just getting ready to do our first summit. And then all of a sudden, nobody wanted to fly for the next 2 months. And so they've always, in our mind, been the white hat. Bill Marriott was my very first speaker when I launched the Entrepreneurs Organization back in 1987. And I'd always seen Hilton, when it was run by Bolenbach, as kind of the evil black hat of the industry. It's amazing how that has switched in the last few weeks. First, it was interesting that of all the best places to work, Microsoft, Facebook, all those, Hilton has been number one, both last year and this year, for how they've treated their employees. And so when all of this mess went down, Marriott's reaction, not run by a Marriott anymore, was to immediately kind of let go of a bunch of folks. Their contract negotiations with it have been terrible and unfriendly, where Hilton said, look, let's see if we can find places for our employees to work, because there are these 300,000 jobs that are immediately available. We feel like our people are well trained, and let's see if we can help pivot them into those industries. And I think they're going to remember that, so that when we're back up and running again as an industry, maybe a year from now, that they're going to come back to the place in the industry that they've enjoyed. And their contract dealings have been so much better and on board. We've already made a decision that Marriott has burnt their relationship with us, and we are going to go Hilton for the rest of the next decade, to the extent that we're running these kind of events. So number 2C, I want you to take a piece of paper and I want you to make a list of what are all the key customers, what are all the key relationships, what are all the key suppliers, community people that I need to make sure that I maintain a great relationship with. And here's the crazy part. I want you to call them. What's interesting during a crisis like this is you can get a hold of people and they want to talk that you probably couldn't have got a hold of the last 12 years because our hair has been on fire. And I have had what are 15-minute conversations with people who probably wouldn't have given me 15 seconds when crazy things were going on. So this is a chance for you to build those relationships. Now, I also want to be very precise here. There's a guy, Brad Stewart. He's got a company called Outsource Access. And what he did for a professional residential painting company, and you can imagine, again, their revenue has been crushed. They're saying, all right, what we're going to do during at least the next few weeks is we're going to go clean up a lot of our database, our marketing, our website. They had 500 pictures sitting around of the previous 500 jobs that they have done. They're now taking time to curate that, get that up on their website, making sure that they write up those success stories. And then what they did is they took their CRM and database and they gave it to Brad Stewart. And by the way, for $50, you can do what would cost you $5,000 through virtual outsourced services in places like India right now, in the Philippines. And they were able to data scrape information from LinkedIn and other places about these top 500 customers that they know are going to be both key referral sources and additional business for them when we come out of this particular issue. And so right now, I think who wins is who's prepared to go to war. Oh, did my video not start again? I was on video. There we are. Thank you. And so what we want to do is make sure that, in short, the oldest profession in the world is intelligence. Whoever has the most intel wins wars and markets. And so this residential painter is saying, all right, I'm facing the brutal facts. I'm not sure. I'm going to go out and try to find some painting that might need to be done on any of the essential services. But he's concluded that he's going to take at least a few weeks and really get to know better his customers, link with them on LinkedIn, get their stories put together, and have the information so that when this thing comes back, his marketing is ready to go out there and grab that business. So that's the second C. The third C, this is a time to do your spring cleaning. It was interesting. I've been wanting to update my speaker page for 2 years. Hey, I had some idle time with one of my team members last week, and so we got that thing considerably updated. We're going through and remember, the key strategy is to always make things easier for customers to find you, to do business. And so those kind of process improvement projects that have been sitting around, we're now doing the cleanup on, which then leads to number 4, which is particularly you've got to clean up your cash situation. It's cash, cash, cash. I just saw a report that came out that commercial loans actually went up by 8% last week. I hope, again, you're in touch with your banker, that you've got your forms filled out, pre-filled out, so when things go live, you can get in line first for that true $2 trillion that's going to be available, about $390 billion of it for us as SMBs into the marketplace. And then we've combed, and what you want to do is get your whole team involved, not just you and your part-time CFO or bookkeeper. And as we were combing through, for instance, our American Express charges over the last month, we realized that we had been paying for 2 CRM systems. We had shut one down. We thought we did a year ago, but everyone thought somebody else had contacted that organization to stop the payments because we weren't using their system anymore. And we have found close to $12,000 worth of kind of recurring expenses that we had been absorbing and not paying attention to. And then number 5, along the whole way, just remain calm and considerate. And here's the key to do that. First, if you're into meditation, spectacular. I have got one of the Muse 2s sitting right by the bed here where I can kind of, hack my way into some calmness. I've got that $300 Aura ring that's giving me data about my sleep, so I can see what's affecting it and not. I can see that my respiration rate is higher than normal even in my sleep. I can see where my variable heart rate is moving right now, and really focused on trying to get good night's sleep so that I'm awake to go into battle. But here's the simple one. And we really learned it from a Russian scientist who came to MIT to finish her PhD in studying executive decision-making. And she studied executives over a period of time who, in a tough situation, had to make a tough call. And then she checked in with them 3 months, 6 months, a year later to have them reflect on the quality of that decision. Had they made the right decision or not, in hindsight. And what she discovered is those executives that made the best, quickest, toughest decisions did 3 things. Number one, and that's how I want to kind of go back where we started. They went out and gathered as much firsthand facts as they could. So I don't first stop the news. If it bleeds, it leads. It's nothing but negativity. There isn't really any facts there that you can trust. What you need to do is you need to talk directly to customers, to your team, to people that you know on the street to find out what's really happening and what people are thinking and doing. So get firsthand information rapidly. Then you've got to be comfortable gathering it within hours, not weeks, and only be about 70% sure that you've got enough. You're never going to have 100%. Then number two, take a couple of deep breaths. I want you throughout the day and before you've got to make a tough call, before you've got to make a tough decision, before you're really trying to think through or really talk through something, right now, just take a couple of deep breaths. And then step number three, check in with your gut. And it's crazy. You can really, if you gather good firsthand information, you've talked to some customers, you've talked to your advisors, you've talked to a few other people in the industry, you've heard some information on things like this, take a couple deep breaths and then check in with your gut with the decision you're about to make. And that's going to improve the quality of your decision tremendously and help you remain calm or in the alpha state. So let me summarize. 5 C's. First, communicate daily, bad news first. Number 2, this is all about making sure in your customer base and your community, there may be some new customers you need to pivot to, that you have made that list and you're beginning to have conversations with them and gathering intel. Number 3, this is the time to do spring cleaning. Clean out the kind of dumb stuff everyone's been wasting time on and figure out how you can support this business maybe with 2 folks instead of 20. Number 4, it is then about cash. Get your everything in line there. By the way, Jeff can give you an access to Alan Milt's cash flow story software. He's got now a very simple screen that you can put 6 numbers into in order to play very sophisticated what-if questions around your projected cash flow. And then number 5, make sure you just remain calm and considerate. All right. So we only have a few minutes here. Let me take any questions, Jeff. I think you wanted me to share that long. I think we've got about 22 minutes.
We have some time for questions, and I believe you can hear me and I can feed you some questions.
All right, you've got it.
So one that I think this could have happened at any point, but especially now, entrepreneurs are seeing the pivot, seeing the opportunities. Some of them are being optimistic and responding to this. How do you deal with a spouse that is not, just in the fear state as an entrepreneur?
Well, the most important thing you've got to do is give them talk time and not to try to solve the problem. Right now, so my partner, Deborah, woke up. She could hardly sleep last night. She's got a lot of fear and concern out there. And the key thing is, look, sweetheart, what's on your mind? What's got you scared? Get it, let them get it out and talk it out. It's the same thing we've learned if somebody wants to get ready to commit suicide. The key thing is they go silent. And what you've got to do is get them to talk. And the minute that she began to verbalize all of that, it moved out of the fear center into her prefrontal lobes. We know that because we've seen the brainwave scans. And she was able then to calm down. So that's really the most important thing, is to up your talk time with everyone. I really want you to measure it. How many hours a day are you talking to people versus emailing or WhatsApping or whatever the case might be?
Okay, we've got a question. Some people are helping the healthcare workers or a member of the community and getting blowback because they're not doing enough. Like, if you're going to help, how do you deal with the PR or the people's demands that you can create when you start to do things? And how does this relate to the put your own oxygen mask on first principle?
Right now you're either winning or learning. There is no losing, and you're just trying to get up the learning curve as quick as possible. So it's hard to answer that specific question because there may be a specific situation. Yeah. But look, I think you just have to recognize everyone is stressed out, fearful, and just just blow things off. Let it just pass by you. And I think read everything that Don DePani is reading right now. DANDAPANI, Don DePani. He's kind of this spiritual guru that a lot of us in EO and others listen to. He had a great article earlier this week. And to go back with the spouse and with your whole team, it's amazing how calming focus is. And right now, the analogy I used a couple of days ago in an email I sent out is Everest has been enveloped now by a massive storm. You are trapped on that mountain, and you've got to save your life. What do? You focus on the next step. You don't think any further than that. When anyone, my team or my partner or my children ask me, all right, what's going to happen this weekend? I said, look, I'll let you know on Friday what we're going to do on Saturday. Your strategy is only as good as your next punch in the face, and we're getting punched in the face every moment. And so when you're on Everest, and if you've read the stories, all plans go out the window, and you've got to just focus on what is the next step, either up or down. Some people still need to make some decisions about getting down very quickly in terms of making the tough choices and cutting teams and getting your cash back preserved, because you said that's a kind of equivalent of putting your own oxygen mask on first. And so what does that mean? Get very focused on what I can accomplish in the next hour. I don't care if it's, I'm going to get this counter cleaned off. You want to do kind of creative, positive activities that can have a conclusion within an hour, so that you can have these little celebrations. If you've got a damaged team or a relationship or situation, you have to piece together little wins. And then what you do is, after you've accomplished the one thing, not the 3 to 5, stay focused. I'm going to get this email done. I'm going to get this form filled out for our $10,000 emergency fund. I'm going to get then this video shot. Those were literally 3 that I did in 3 hours yesterday. Then between each one of those, I want you to get up, walk around, take a break, grab a glass of water. And one of the things that we learned from Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs, is the power of these walks and talks. And this combines everything that I just said. We know that this kind of walking movement, pacing around, I'm doing 5 miles a day in steps. Some of it is outside, but a lot of it's me pacing around and getting talk time while I'm on the phone. And that, we know physically calms you down and allows you to begin to focus. So work really hard on one thing for an hour, and then give yourself permission to take a break, walk around, talk to somebody, grab a glass of something, and then go back to work. Piece together 1 hour steps with your team, with your spouse, with your children. And that's how you get off this mountain called Everest in a storm.
Great. So this is a small question, but somebody wants to know how you get Don DePani. How do you find that name? How do you spell it? Or
here. Let me just put it right now in the chat. Don DePani. And he did a Inc. article, just Google him. He's put out some really nice stuff every single day there. I put it in the chat.
Thank you. Okay. So one of the points that I really grooved on was the maintain and improve the relationships.
Yeah.
How does one bring to mind the relationships that they need to work on or that they need to pay attention to? It just, in the stream of things, who are we ignoring? How do we know that we connect to those right people?
Well, it's the exercise that we do with all companies in good times, and it's particularly critical in bad times. So I'll give you a very precise example. I'll give you 2. So back when I launched YEO, the Young Entrepreneurs Organization, who I learned this from was Regis McKenna. Regis was the marketing guru who was there in the very beginning with Steve Jobs and Wozniak, with Andy Grove at Intel, Genentech. And in 1983, I cold called him and said, hey, you helped Steve go to $1 billion. I just want to get this entrepreneurs organization started. Remember, I'm a student at Wichita State University. I'm really a nobody, kind of nowhere. But I reached out and said, look, I need your help. I had a good elevator pitch that made sense to him. And he said, all right, I'm going to take you through what I taught Steve. And Steve did this when he needed to launch iTunes. You take out a piece of paper and you make a list of who are all the key influencers or relationships I need in order to really get launched. And that's what right now everyone's doing, is relaunching their organizations as if it were a startup. And I wrote down, all right, President Ronald Reagan. I'm a student at Wichita State, but I wrote down the President of the United States. And then I wrote down, look, and I want Steve Jobs and Michael Dell and Inc. Magazine and Venture Magazine involved. And I made a list of 25. I didn't know a single one. But then we spent an hour every week. Here, you need to spend an hour every day. And you then figure out how, through your network, you're going to get to them, what your message is going to be. And in 36 months, we were global. I had the president coming to open up a big event. I got invited to the White House. I had Steve Jobs there, Michael Dell, Inc. Venture. It was crazy how it worked. So this company in Austin called Proof. They started out wanting to kind of own this space, social proof marketing. Dave had launched 2 other previous companies, and he said it was way too hard. And so he really, on his 3rd company with his team, wanted to launch in 3 days. And so using our tools, Jeff knows them well, in 3 days, he took this company from idea to launch. And one of the key things he did is he took a piece of paper out. And he said, not 25, but who are the 50 key people that I need to know, have them know what we're about to do. Look, he doesn't even have product or anything. What it is that we're going to be doing, what our capabilities are, that this is a space that we want to dominate. By the way, he knew nobody on that list of 50. Then what he did, but he said, these are the key people that I've got to get to, like the governor of this or the CEO of that. You can make your list in whatever it is you want to do next. And then he said, all right, who are the 2 or 3 people that would probably know these 50? And that's who he focused on through his network, getting to them. In 2 months, he got to 45 of those 50. Remember, he's a startup. Doesn't have a product. He's way pre-product. And he got those 45 you create this momentum. The 45 started referring to him and his new company. And he said it was crazy. Friends kept emailing him or messaging him through Facebook saying, Dave, everyone's talking about you. You are everywhere. And he still laughs about it today. Perception's 90% out in the marketplace. So that's the kind of list I want you to make. I made it immediately when we hit this crisis. First guy on the list was a guy named Steve Hall, who had scaled a company to $400 million, sold to a $10 billion company, took a division from $100 million to $1 billion when he was there. He's one of the smartest guys I know. He's, quote, retired right now. And I said, Steve's who I need to get talk time with every single day. And he's enjoying talking to me versus all the sad cases that he's having to deal with as a wealthy investor in various companies.
Yeah, this whole question reminds me of one of the first lessons I ever learned from you, which is whenever possible, turn a what or how question into a who question.
You got Jim Collins was right on that. It's always a who question. Starting with 4 or 5 people in your own industry that you can get on a call with quickly and start to brainstorm. What the hell are we going to do next?
I love that. Some people are asking about Zoom and the fact that they've had security problems and things like that. Before you answer, I want to say Zoom has been amazingly helpful in putting this event on in terms of, first of all, the technology, but also the help with how do you do an event like this and how do you connect with this? So while they may have some problems, and I'm sure they're going to address them, they have been an amazing resource that the world is depending on, and they're coming through. But there are security issues or other things. If you somebody's asking about that, if you have anything to say.
I don't. We've got a tech team that's dealing with all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. I know that Zoom is doing some amazing pivots. We had major problems last week. This is my 7th Zoom event this week with no problems. So I think they're on top of it. And hey, we all have to start ugly. Get it out there and continue to rapidly improve. And that's what we're all trying to do.
I completely live in that space, right? It's
sure.
It's better to be active and improving than to be perfecting and not connecting with the market.
Yeah. You're winning or learning, and whoever can learn right now fastest wins. And that was really the lesson that Brad Feld and Eric Ries and all those brought to the market. When they looked at Silicon Valley, these guys were spending $2 million and taking 2 years to create something nobody wanted. And that's what Dave knew when he was launching his company Proof. And so we can now do in weeks for a few thousand what it took years and 2 million if, what's the key? You find a key group of customers, you quickly interact with them, and that's what Rick Skidmore did immediately. All right, who can I access? Who's going to need maybe something that we can build in our factory, and let's get on with it. And right now he is running up the learning curve in 7 days, from making shutters to stuff that emergency crews need to a tune of million. He figures his run rate is going to be $50,000 of revenue a day that he's been able to pivot to that quickly.
That is awesome. And there's so many inspiring stories that are going on in terms of new business opportunities. One of my old friends and clients has connecting to the medical community and helping them keep their computers healthy throughout this time.
Yeah. Cool.
So you're turning around and getting all this opportunity to engage with the marketplace in new ways and solve new problems. Again, that's the whole drive behind this is business will be the accelerating force out of this economic depression or recession or whatever word we want to use for it. Business is the road out.
Yeah. By the way, I saw somebody recommend the One Thing book. Yes, but that's what our book Scaling Up and my original Mastering the Rockefeller Habits was all about. Was all right. Pick and by the way, I think the key is we talk about picking a theme, usually for a quarter. I want you to pick a theme for the day, a rally. Pat Lencioni called it a rallying cry. Because Pat and I are very close friends, the 5 dysfunctions of a team guy. And so on his call, he was talking about that. But what you want to do is you want to pick a theme or a rallying cry for the next hour, for the next few hours, for the next day. I think that's about it. If you can look out maybe a week, that would be spectacular right now. Hey, we've got, I think about 7 minutes left, or 6, something.
So, yeah.
Anything else I can help with?
Somebody's asking about contingent capital funds. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I don't either. I know right now the big trough of funding is coming from the government.
Absolutely.
And there's local resources as well. So, and I know there's a certain set in Canada. I know you have some Canadians the key thing is get somebody on your team that's detail oriented, who can stand to read through all that. In my team, it's Missy Giltner. I had Missy get on Ami Kassar's webinar yesterday. I put her in touch with our banker, with our bookkeeper, Laura, and we already gathered up our payroll data yesterday with our accountant. So today, my theme for Missy is to get that pre-form we got from the bank filled out so that we know we have all the information needed. So if and when the SBA site goes live, we're not fumbling around and we're ready to enter that information immediately. That's an idea of a theme to go after that capital, but maybe somebody's got it here. Has Verne heard about it? No, it's not my expertise.
Yeah, we don't have, that's a different seminar than this, exactly. What we're about is what you as business people can do and engage with the world, getting your ideas out of your head, getting your people properly engaged, both connecting with reality and bending reality to what you want it to be. You have to do both.
Oh, well, I do see what the person's banking, what Aaron is. Look, guys, this is the biggest opportunity. Right now, assets are half, if not 3/4 off. So folks who happen to have cash, and I got an email yesterday from my buddy Bill Kreider, and maybe it's a good way to end this, and I know it's probably too late, but I want you to think about it through the next round. Oh, where is that message from Bill? Hold on. Anyway, long story short, he said, Verne, at your last CEO boot camp, you employed all of us leaders to have in the bank a year's worth of operating expense. So if our revenues went to zero, then we would be okay. Bill took that to heart. His banker's been impressed with how he's been such a steward of his cash. And he was just thankful because right now, if you've got the cash, those guys, Warren Buffett, this is the whale that he's been looking for and talked about just a few weeks ago in his investor letter. Billions are going to change hands over the next few months. That's just a reality. But look, right now, we have to realize our most competitive weapon always has been is right between our ears. This is your operating system. What you've got to do is you've got to feed it rapidly with good data and information, recognize where the puck's going, and then get lots of rapid talk time with people. And then you need to decide, move, and pivot. You can't freeze on the mountain or you're going to die. And so you got to move up or you got to move down one step at a time.
You do. And this whole conversation about cash gets back into the fact that a lot of business folks think about revenue first, profit second, and cash third. And that's the exact opposite order in which they need to think about it.
Yeah. By the way, somebody asked about the 10,000. My understanding is it's does not have to be payback. And the first, like we're going to qualify for about 87,000 in this PPP. It's, equip your payroll kind of over 3 months, and that will be forgiven as well. And then you can take out a loan for the equivalent of that for a year at a very low percentage rate, but that you're going to be on the hook for in terms of debt. But they're talking about that debt being, 30-year, up to $2 million. So depending on the size of your company, but again, it's somebody on your team, your bookkeeper, whoever's detail-oriented, to read through all that stuff because I can't stand it myself.
And I think also the forgiven loan is not going to count as income, which is another little gift from the government.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? The stuff's changing every single day. So
absolutely.
Stay on top of it. Hey, I think we've got 2 minutes. Any final question?
Any final question? Or if we just got something. Is there a link to so you mentioned a webinar earlier, did you?
Well, Ami Kassar, Kassar, has been doing a webinar every day at noon Eastern on keeping our world up to date on what's happening with the SBA.
And by the way, the reason he's giving one every day is because the rules and information is changing every day.
It is.
Yeah.
So, all right, Jeff, I better get going. I've got another webinar here in a few minutes I need to get prepared for. Hopefully there was an idea, pony in there somewhere that folks can take advantage of. Talk. That's the key. Get face to face. By the way, one last thing. Somebody mentioned it. The way our neurons work in our brain, it's kind of crazy. But we've done all these Zoom meetings inside our own company, and we've never had the video on. For the first time in the last 2 weeks, we've had the video on. And the research is very clear. It's why we feel close to certain celebrities when we actually see their face. And that's why we think upping your video and video time and visual connections with people. Right now, you're building bonds that cannot be built just through verbal communication over the phone or again, through texting and emailing. So key KPI, lots of video contact, either live or get videos out to your team so they stay and feel connected. All right, Jeff, good luck with the rest of your
Very good.
event. Take care.
Thank you, Verne.